Welcome everybody. I'm into the light, but short raise of hands, who is or has run a crowdfunding campaign already? Okay, half the room. How many people have run a platform or are wanting to run a platform? Okay, so it's half on half. What I'm going to talk about is relevant for the two. I'm going to talk about growth hacking. And growth hacking is an evolution from digital marketing. Digital marketing that has been evolved from, together with e-business, that used to follow the traditional channels. The traditional channels of first taking folders and making, let's say, first generation websites, later starting to be more and more communicative. Then we had Web 2.0 where social was getting integrated. We're seeing now that it's not enough anymore. We're at the end of, let's say, taking the old economy and using new tools. We're now finding new ways to use those new tools, and that's really driving growth, driving innovation in the marketing world. And there was an interesting article I picked up in Harvard Business Review that was talking about crowd cultures and how crowd cultures are really changing the way that social media is used for brands to do their marketing. It changed them in a revolutionary way because not only is the way that advertising is consumed, that brands are perceived changing, but the cultures themselves are changing. And it's the innovative players that can really use this to their benefit. And it's not different when we think about how we run our crowd campaigns. Yeah, voilà. Could we run the video? This is a video about Under Armour, and Under Armour is a sports textile company that has really found these subcultures that have really been able to identify these subcultures and actually engage with them on a very personal level. If it doesn't work, I'll let you watch.
Dear candidate, thank you for your application to our ballet academy. Unfortunately, you have not been accepted. You lack the right feet, Achilles tendons, turnout, torso length, and bust. You have the wrong body for ballet, and at 13, you are too old to be considered.
What this video does, what this story tells you, is you can overcome adversity. It's not because people tell you that you can't, that you should quit. And when I look at crowdfunding campaigns that fail, often it's due to the fact that they lack this burning platform. They lack showing me where the pain is and where I, as a backer, could help them out. If it's just about pre-financing stock or inventory, I'm not that engaged unless I really want the product. So branding, growth hacking is really about telling a story, finding the pain, and doing it like a hustle. Because when you ask for help, you need to enable people to understand why you want it, and you need to sell it. It's not just okay to point to where it hurts. You really need to tell them, it hurts and I can't walk unless you help me get up and move forward. But when I walk, when I move forward, then I'll be able to do something in return. So A hustler really says, I'm a unicorn, even if he looks like a rhinoceros. Now, growth hacking looks like a dark art, and I actually did a dual startup, CrowdAngels and Growth Architects. I used to call it Growth Architects because hacking sounds bad. People don't want hackers nearby. Even if it's ethical hacking, they still have a But actually, one of the pioneers of growth hacking was Airbnb. What Airbnb did is, when they launched their company, they didn't have a lot of marketing budget. So what they did is they kind of hacked the code of Craigslist to be able to, what they did is they created thousands and thousands of emails automatically, and from that created one post, one ad for something that was listed on their platform. And through automating that generation of emails, new content, and publishing it, they actually used the traffic that Craigslist generated for them to get traction and to grow. And so growth hacking is the art where you actually use opportunities that have not been used before. It's not about breaking something, it's not about stealing something. It's about looking at where is the potential for growth for me? Where is there something that's untapped and which I could use? So, now, to be able to identify your growth potential, your growth opportunities, it's important that you have a basis. You start usually with a hunch, and a hunch helps you get going. But in the end, you need to test your hypothesis. And you need data to be able to test those hypotheses, to form new ones, and to actually be able to use it to generate your leads. So there are actually six steps that we have identified, and which probably in this audience are pretty obvious. But there is a huge underestimation of how much work it takes to prepare for a crowdfunding campaign. Crowdfunding, like anything else, requires you to think ahead. It requires you to look forward and to build your proposition, to test it. We've seen several examples today as well, where you see that the preparation, the hustle before, involving friends and family, building a prototype, actually led to a successful campaign. It wasn't a success overnight. Once you have your data, you need to analyze it and keep repeating this throughout your campaign. You plan it, you launch it, and also afterwards, feedback. When you see what Indiegogo does, they're very open about their data. They regularly share it back to the community. Why? It's a good time for them to reflect on the value they have, but they get immense value back from the community that actually takes this data and runs with it. So plan your campaigns, plan it ahead. I'm going to skip a bit faster through the data, but last year, the last 2 years, everything was about big data. There was a lot of data being generated, but what could you do with it? So we started talking about small data because data needed to be actionable. But actionable data requires interpretation, reflection. So we're talking more and more today about smart data. And this I found a very interesting one when plotting the number of husbands versus the time they'll be married. So better get a bulk rate on wedding cake. You can't extrapolate everything. Oops. Now, growth hacking, I don't know who has heard of R. Show of hands, a few. R, when you can say R, you can do growth hacking like a pirate. Growth hacking like a pirate because there's 2 A's, 3 R's. You need to look at acquisition, Where do you find your backers? Activation, once you find them, identify them, you need to be able to convert them. You need to be able to retain them afterwards. We've heard several examples today as well. It's often not just one campaign. There's a whole life cycle, and you don't need to shoot for the stars from day one. It's better to pace yourself, to launch, to learn, to reflect, and improve. And you need to use that basis that you've built to actually drive your referrals, to get the community engaged. And finally, in the end, you need to have more than you invested in the campaign. You need, otherwise, I've done about 65, 70 projects, and I've seen several ones where, in the end, we basically had to invest everything we had gained just to pay for all of the rewards that we had promised. We had underestimated, for example, shipping costs to Hong Kong, to Australia, returns, things we hadn't taken account to beforehand. So in the end, you need to monitor your revenue. Acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, and referral. Think like a pirate when you think about your growth hacking strategy. And growth hacking really comes together on the cross-section of marketing and engineering. Now, what do you need? What is a growth hacker? A growth hacker is usually someone that has both the technical skills, the technical insight, and the marketing abilities to actually look at data and run a campaign. Now, often it's not enough to be alone. You need several people, several profiles in your team. You have the hipster, the hacker, and the hustler. The hustler is somebody that he'll do the deal making, he'll do the introduction, or she'll do the introductions. She'll be the one doing the talking. The hipster is the one with an eye for detail. He will want to make sure that it's pitch perfect, that everything that's promised is being delivered. And the hacker is someone that will find those exploits, find those ways to think differently where others didn't. I'm adding to that the data scientists. The data scientists, because there's so much data there today and so much data you can harvest that is getting very complex to see through it. So you need people that have those statistical skills, that understand data, that understand the relations with data. And the challenge comes here, and that's also where a few opportunities lie. You see several startups that actually do the data harvesting for you, and that are starting to automate this data collection and data analysis. How much time do I have still? Okay, yeah, very good. One warning, and in investment, it's often repeated, but people don't reflect on it as much as they should when they look at crowdfunding or crowdsourcing. It's not because somebody has backed a certain campaign in the past that they will again in the future. It's not because one type of game is popular on Kickstarter today that it will be on the future. So you still need your unique story, your unique identity. It's also very important, and we've heard it in the speech before. Keep your momentum. Make sure you have momentum when you start. Make sure you keep momentum throughout. Work with your network, but don't ask them to back you all at day one. Make sure you manage it throughout the life cycle of your project. There will be mistakes, there will be failures, but I love this quote: sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. and use that. Don't wait to incorporate your learnings into your campaign. One example, rewards. Often people misinterpret what people want in their reward structure. So when you see potential to change your reward structure, do it during your campaign and use it as a way to communicate. We had the example, we only have packages of 1, 2, and 3. Well, if there's a demand for bulk, let's use 5 and add 5 for free. So learn throughout the campaign. I'm briefly going to go through 12 growth hacks. We have about 130 that we've identified and we can that we work with regularly. This is a case from Massive Damages. Massive Damages was is a game, and we've heard it today before. They wanted 80,000. They needed 80,000. They asked for 40. They asked for 40. Why? Because it's a strong story. It helps reach a goal, reach a target. It builds confidence. It keeps momentum. Now, what they would have done if they wouldn't have reached the 40, or that would have been, of course, not the 80, sorry, would have been difficult. They would have had difficulties in actually delivering on what they promised on. So one of the things you need to always keep in mind that whatever you promise, however strong your hustle is, whatever techniques you used to get there, make sure you're not lying. Make sure you stay in an honest relation and that you can deliver, and ideally over-deliver. Another one is think of your campaign like a startup would think of pitching to a venture capitalist. What's my team like? What's my story? What do I actually need to deliver on the vision that I've pitched? Who's supporting me already? Which ambassadors will keep supporting me in the future? Who knows the lean canvas? Okay. Quarter. The lean canvas is nothing new, but it's very helpful because it provides you with a framework to think about a startup. It starts from a value proposition and looks at, from that value proposition, where is your solution and your key metrics? What are your advantages and your channels? What are the customer segments that you're going to serve with that value proposition? And what is the problem that you're solving for them? Then looking at your cost structure and your revenue gives you a business plan on a page. It's a summary of your story, your vision, and your value proposition. Now, if you think of this, it's not different with the crowd campaign. You need to tell that story. You need to be cash flow positive in the end. You need to come out winning. From traditional digital marketing, are you ADA? Are you able to grab attention, raise interest, spiral people's desire, and get them to go to action? So make sure that when you devise your campaign, that you look at all of those elements and that you balance them when you're setting up your campaign. And I'm not just talking, usually Kickstarter, Indiegogo, other platforms, they have this figured out. But a lot of people also choose to do their own campaign, for example, on a WordPress site, on their own website, or integrate it somewhere else. So make sure that you look at this. The mafia offer. You need a mafia offer. You need an offer that says, 10 euros and a thank you card is nice. But if you offer 10 euros and you get a kiss in the mail, that might incentivize people more. It might say, you know, give us 10 euros now and you'll get a free cinema ticket. So the more value you can trade and build into your campaign and say, this is something I really can't refuse. I mean, buy one, get 10 for free, that's a super deal for me. So think of that. Once people have bought, it's easier to then upsell than to get them to walk away and try to win them back. Make sure you have a cliffhanger. Make sure you let people want more towards the future. Promise them in your next campaign more features, more products, more. I'll go through them very quickly to close. 2 minutes. Voilà. So where's our future? We think that we're going to more and more deeply engaged communities who will all run their own crowd campaigns. We've seen examples today. We'll see many more those coming days. The first generation platforms where everybody goes with all of their projects, I think is lost. Why? Because it's about this engagement.